Hey everyone, welcome back to another Inner Sleuths live stream. Doing something a little bit different today. So I'm starting up a podcast, which I'm calling PaxCast. It's going to be talking about all different kinds of stuff for the upcoming sandbox MMO game, PAX Day. So if you guys have not heard about PAX Day, I know I got a couple people in chat already. How's it going, Templar and Sparta? It's good to see you guys. Thanks for tuning in. But for people who don't know what PAX Day is, go and check out some of my previous live streams. They should be up as videos now. And you guys can see some more information about what PAX Day is. But these podcasts going forward are going to be tuned a little bit more, talking about the news and upcoming stuff from Mainframe, the developers behind PAX Day. And we're just going to be going over some of their thoughts, some of my thoughts, things that they've addressed, things that they've yet to address, things that I want to make sure get addressed if at all possible. But yeah, it's just going to be a live podcast. So I'm doing this on the fly. This is not pre-recorded, obviously. You guys can interact with me in chat. Let me know what you think about the whole setup here. When I have guests on, you'll be able to see, I have it set so you can see our Discord overlay here in the top right corner. It'll light up with who's speaking. So you can see I'm your host as always, Voidlock. You can see I'm lighting up there. We got our subscriber goal, which we are blazing through. Trying to get to 200 subs, and then there's going to be a new goal after that. But make sure if you guys like what you're seeing and hearing, I have to say hearing now because this is my first podcast. So if you like what you see or hear, make sure you subscribe. Join our community. There should be links all over the channel to join the Inner Sleuths. So that way you guys can take part in the potentially the next alpha for PAX Day with us. If you're not already signed up, make sure you go to their website. And I think up here at the I don't know if I can show you on this page. It's a little, I have it cropped, kind of strange, but on their website, just playpaxday.com in the top right corner, alpha sign up. Make sure you make an account. We have a friend code. I'll try to get that friend code to you guys, hopefully by the end of the stream here. If not, just make sure you join the Discord so you can use friend code. I think that allows people to get in, us to get in together. We're going to be doing a community follower, subscriber build together. We're going to make a clan or a guild, and we're going to be working together in the next alpha or maybe even early access. According to some of this information we have here, according to this Wilderness Alpha Learnings, it may be going straight into early access. So we will see. But yeah, if you like what you see, make sure you're subscribed and let's get into it. So they start off just by saying how they had over 100,000 participants, which to them, huge achievement. I think so too. I mean, 100,000 participants for your second alpha. This Wilderness Alpha is only the second alpha for PAX Day. I'm sure they've done internal testing. I'm sure they have a lot of other stuff like that. But to the public, the closed alpha sign-up process, they let in over 100,000 participants, which is, I mean, bravo. They talk about how they had minimum latency throughout the test, which I thought was pretty true. You know, they say right here, minimal latency throughout. I think that is absolutely true. The servers performed exceptionally well. I mean, especially when I'm coming from a background of I play Star Citizen a lot. Their servers are kind of trash. It's a great game. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. You know, some people hate it, some people like it, but for PAX Day's second alpha here to have over 100,000 participants and have as good of latency as they did throughout, I think that is really, really great. There were a couple issues at the beginning. If you watch my previous streams, you'll notice a lot of the different issues that I pointed out, but their live ops team, I guess, is the people who are taking care of everything in real time for the live servers, and we had them on high alert, they say, for quite some time, but they navigated through the chaos, and I would say they did pretty well. I mean, when the servers did go down, I mean, I'm used to playing World of Warcraft and stuff too, and they have servers go down, they say, oh, they'll be down for this long, and ends up being twice as long. You don't get in for a long time, but I think Mainframe and their live ops team did a really great job. And I'm not just padding them up. I'm going to tell you guys some of the stuff that did go wrong. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to tell you how it is. I'm not sponsored by them. They have no holdover whatsoever. I'm going to be giving you guys my honest opinions on things. And I'm going to be referencing a lot of stuff that took place in my live streams. So you can go and check those out if you guys want to see what I'm actually talking about. And a couple of the big things we're going to address, but they talk about some of the things further down here in this post. So their live ops teams, bravo to you guys. You kept you got the servers up. You kept them up with 100,000 people for your second alpha. I don't know if they even could have anticipated. Well, I guess because they let the people in, so they knew they were going to have that many people. But I'm sure they were trying to stress the servers, and they performed admirably, in my opinion. They talk about how the sight of numerous campfires lighting up the night sky with our intricate, impressive buildings gave them goosebumps, which it gave me goosebumps at times too. I mean, I made several shorts on it at this point. It was pretty amazing to see some of the stuff that people built. I don't know if you guys remember from our live stream, there was a clan that built up the side of a mountain, almost like this here. They built up the side of a mountain with stairs leading up to their own like village up at the top. It was quite amazing to see. And once I got up to the top, you could look down over and just see my crappy little house down at the bottom. And I stopped worrying about building so much partially of the way through the Wilderness Alpha because I just wanted to get through the nitty gritty. You know, I wanted to get down into what was actually important to me, which was testing the functionality of the crafting system, the combat system, and all sorts of things like that. But they talk about how they're content creators, whether wide-eyed, wondered, or tears of joy. It was very moving to them to see content creators talk about it. Templar says the views and builds definitely gave me good chills. That's for sure. Yeah, I agree. It's a very beautiful game. So if they can wrap this all up into a nice package that's fun to play, good, like just enjoyable to play, it has very good systems in it. If they can really tie this all together and just deliver on this, the beauty will just be icing on top. Because in my opinion, you have games like Minecraft, you have games that just don't look the best. They don't look bad. They have their art style, and trust me, I love a good art style. But I think you're absolutely right, Templar. The builds that people, the possibility of the builds that people can do here is amazing. And that's why I'm following this so closely, and I'm keeping an eye on this project, and I'm going to try and bring you guys any news. This news is 6 days old. They posted this 6 days ago. It took me a little while to get this podcast set up going here, so let me know what you guys think about this. And when I do bring guests on again, you'll be able to see us all listed here, so you'll know who's talking, and you can see all the information on screen, chat in the bottom left. But I think this game's beautiful, but that's just icing on top, in my opinion. Let's see what else they say here. So the pinnacle was them hearing about all the different players gathering, exchanging advice and tips about resource spots, trading goods, forming alliances, and trying to overcome the challenges of the wild. And that filled them with joy. And that's great to hear because when you have developers who like to hear how much other people are enjoying their game, it means they're going to be more receptive to feedback, right? They're going to be listening to the community because they care about what we think. I mean, this could be, are they bullshitting us? I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, sure, they're trying to make money at the end of the day, and they've yet to talk really about too much about monetization, which we'll get into that. I think, in my opinion, monetization can make or break a game, but I'm going to tell you guys everything that I know, and I'm just going to give it to you straight. I'm not going to bullshit you. I got a little bit of hate in some of my videos. I got called a fanboy on some of my streams, which is just not, it's just not true. I'm going to tell you the good and the bad. When something's good and I enjoyed it, you watched me enjoy it. So you'll get it, you know, straight from me. But they talk about how the stories that they watched happen just brought them joy, which is great to hear from different developers. All the different moments, big and small, emerging gameplay was like witnessing the birth of their game. And that's got to feel great for them. And it's got to be motivating to them. So if they can, like I said before, if they can dial this in, because there's a couple things that need work for sure. One of them is the crafting system. But I want to go through this and touch on these different pieces in this article and, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt here and let them explain before I just go into the things I don't like. You're like, oh, tell me the things you don't like. I want to hear them. I want to hear them. We'll talk about them after we hear about what they've changed and the things that they've gone over, because they may or may not have addressed some of the things that I, you know, was talking about in my previous live streams. So they talk about how a massive sandbox game like PAX Day is a very unique challenge because it requires thousands of players to become real, which is true. I mean, you have so many moving parts in a game like this. And I found how they're actually making it run smooth I don't know if you guys remember from one of my streams, I found that those lines on the map, you had like these chunks that were outlined. Those were actually server barriers, as far as I could tell. They're doing something similar to how Star Citizen does their server meshing, where they'll have a different server rendering a different zone. And when I crossed the barrier, you saw things load in on the other side and phase out from the other side. So they're going to have to iron that out somehow. That's going to be one of the unique challenges that they're going to have to overcome in order to make this, with this unique engine implementation here, they're going to have to find a way to overcome this. And I don't really have predefined talking points in my head. So if I ramble on certain things, I'm doing this live. Like I'm reading this right now with you guys. I glossed over this a little bit so I could structure somewhat, but I'm just going at it here. But one of the very unique challenges that they're going to face is how are they going to overcome the server limitations of having so many thousands of players all connected. I'm sure they're going to have maybe shards like World of Warcraft does, server meshing, kind of like how Star Citizen is starting to implement. But it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. And they talk about how, how different their servers looked just a few days into the alpha, which is true. I mean, we saw Civilization basically pop up overnight. That clan on the top of the hill, which make sure you check out my previous live stream if you want to see what I'm talking about. That clan on top of the hill, that was an astonishing build to just pop up overnight. I mean, I've seen some cool builds in games like Valheim and stuff, but this is on a whole new level. I think they need to add a bigger like berth, and they talk a little bit about that down below. They need to add like a larger barrier between the roads and where you can build, I think. I think players should have to be off the beaten road a little bit more. But it's not anything too immersion breaking. It's just how do you control what someone builds? That's always the problem in games like Minecraft for me and stuff. We have soft core rules and stuff like that on my Minecraft servers when I used to play Minecraft, and it was, don't build X, Y, and Z that doesn't make, physical sense, no floating structures and things like that. So there is, I did realize that there is some sort of a physics system to PAX Day. I'm not sure how advanced it is though, because I did see some towers that looked like they were just barely hanging on. And sometimes that can ruin your immersion. If you see some strange looking structure that, because it's a sandbox MMO, you're going to run into some things that other people have built. So how do you get the cohesion to preserve your immersion in the game and have a good time without having like some giant phallic shaped tower or something? I don't know how you get around that. Maybe moderation, active GMs, but that can only go so far when you have thousands to one of players to GM ratio. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves and how they overcome those challenges. But they talk right here about, can you imagine what it's going to look like after a few months? That's what I'm talking about. How are they going to moderate months and months, if not years, of evolution of people's builds? Now, I'm going to give everyone the benefit of the doubt and hope that everyone would want to build something that was thematically correct and not out of place, but you're going to have a lot of different build styles that are going to have to mesh together in a game like this. It's going to be very interesting to see how that takes place. And they talk about another big part that they want to talk about in detail is the social fabric of the economy. This is something that they're not fully ready to unveil, which I wish they gave us a little bit more information on that, because I would love to see what they have in place for the economy, because it's going to change the way that I perceive the crafting system. They promise that PAX Day is going to have a deeper and richer economy. But what does that mean? What does that look like, right? And we're going to do a little bit of theory craft. I'm probably going to have some other, podcast episodes. This is just episode 1, so maybe in episode 2, we're going to do some theory craft, or maybe our wishes or our wish list for PAX Day of what we would like to see implemented and changed after we go over some of the other news that they have for us. But I want to see what this social fabric of the economy is going to actually look like. Because one of the things right now that's one of my biggest gripes, and they talk about it down below, but I'll touch on it here, is the crafting system and the progression of a solo player is very, very arduous. It's very grindy. It's very hard. That's why we as a community here at the Inner Sleuths, make sure you guys join our Discord. It's Cheeky Buggers United Discord. That's our community. We are going to be doing stuff together as much as possible when the next launch comes out, so we can have people specialize in things. Maybe I'm the hunter gatherer, maybe Templar, he's the blacksmith or something. Some people are gonna have specializations because the crafting right now is very arduous for a single person, which arguably it should be. But without having had those systems in place for this social fabric of the economy in this previous Wilderness Alpha, this second alpha that they just did, it made it very, very hard to progress in order to, test things properly. And it didn't really sit well with me in regards to being a single player. So we're gonna have to see if they had like trading systems in place or trade routes or things like that where you can, again, this is going a little bit into the theory crafting here, but if you could like send caravans to places, maybe you had to protect those caravans or something like that. Some form of trade system would be very good. And spoiler alert, they talk about that a little bit down below, but they talk about how it's going to become much deeper and richer in the future. So they're going to jump into some of the specifics of what they saw and heard. And the first one here is going to be combat. Oops, let me scroll up a little bit here. My browser page looks a little different than this cropped and padded one on screen, so bear with me a little bit. So they're talking about how they want the combat system that feels like a modern action-oriented MMO combat system. They want it to be balanced between player skill and RPG progression, which that's a great thing. You want the combat system to have you want to have authority over the combat system, but all in multiple ways. You don't want it to just be skill based because let's face it, not everyone's going to be top dog perfecting the animations, cooldown times and stuff to be able to do a perfect rotation. It's like in any game like World of Warcraft or even V Rising I've been playing recently. Not everyone's going to be the best at combat. So you need to have your gear and your RPG side of the progression, like your skills and stuff, to be able to carry you a little bit to get you part of the way there, and then your skills finish it off. I do agree that a better player should always best a worse player if they have equal gear. There should never be something that can be a determining factor other than skill and gear, I don't think. I mean, they could go into, obviously if you have more players and stuff like that on your side, strength in numbers, but it's good to see a skill-based system because I played a lot of Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast back in the day, and that is a purely skill-based game. There is no difference in your loadout or anything like that. It is you have a lightsaber, they have a lightsaber. I mean, you could argue who had more health at the start and stuff like that, but when you're looking at from a skill and gear standpoint, it's good to know that they want it to be a skill-based and RPG progression-based system. I really like their RPG progression. It reminds me a lot of Valheim or other games of that nature where you're leveling up your skills by using those skills. I really like that. When it comes to the progression of your professions, that's another story. I feel like they need some middle ground in there because if you watch I'm going to be referring to my previous streams because that's where a lot of my experiences come from. So if you want to see how I came to these conclusions, you can go and watch those and see exactly what I'm talking about. But the system that has to do with the profession system, they really need to add some middle ground on there. And they talk a little bit about it down below, I believe. So we'll get to that. But as far as your actual skills go for combat and stuff like that, I like the way that they level up. I like the way they feel. I'm always down for more depth. I'm not sure what that would look like, but more depth in games like this is very rarely a bad thing. It's almost always a good thing, in my opinion. They say that your gear will matter a lot. That's what I was just talking about. I think it's really good when your gear actually makes a difference because if you're wearing light armor, you should be more nimble. If you're wearing heavy armor, you should be more tanky. That's going to change your play style. Having something for everyone to be able to engage with, something that they like, in my opinion, you can't go wrong with that. More options, the better. You're giving a wide variety, but you have to be able to balance it. So, I say the more variety, the better. That's to an extent. If you can't balance it, having more choices is almost always going to be a bad thing then because you're going to have too many things to balance and you're not doing it right. It's not going to come out to be a good feeling system. So if they can balance the different types of armor and gear, that's going to feel really great in game. They talk about how they want you to specialize in a role when you're raiding a dungeon with your group, which I, again, really like that. I'm just envisioning going down into a dungeon. I have a big shield and heavy armor and a mace because I can shield bash, which again, they talk about shield bash down below. We're going to get into that too. Because I found that shield bash was extremely overpowered, especially when coupled with a stunning weapon such as the mace. I would shield bash into a stun, into multiple hits. And one of the other weird things about the combat that I don't think they talk about here that I want to make sure gets brought up is it's kind of strange to be able to change your weapons mid combat. There should be more that goes into that. If this is to be somewhat on the leaning towards realism side, you should not be able to put your mace away and pull out a long sword and put your shield up immediately with just a click of a button. There is a slight animation and delay to it, but I feel like there should be some type of huge penalty, like a massive stamina penalty or a big animation or something, because you should have to go into combat pulling out a bow and putting away a sword and shield to pull out a bow. That should not just be I got some distance, pull out my bow, turn around and pot shot, you know. I never really did that because the way the bows work, you can't just really fire rapidly, but maybe with crossbows, you could have pocket crossbows or hidden daggers or something like that. If there's going to be a disarm mechanic, being able to pull out your backup, having two weapons that slow you down, but now you have a backup weapon, you can pull out your backup weapon, like a dagger or a short sword or something. That'd be really cool to see. Again, I'm doing a little bit of theory craft. We're going to do some more theory craft on some future podcasts. This one's mainly just touching on the things that they're talking about here and giving my 2 cents on them. But having a specialized role is going to be, it's going to feel really great because you're going to have people who are the damage dealers with the spears behind the shield walls. And it's especially for PvP, that could feel really great. They talk about right here the combat system and from the Alpha 1 to the second Alpha, which is this past Alpha. Hey Maven, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. My first podcast. Let me know what you think about it. And yeah, I'm gonna be tweaking this over the next couple days because I'm gonna be doing a couple more of these podcasts. Maven says a disarm mechanic would be very cool too. Yeah, I really like the idea of a disarm mechanic. Sparta says greetings to I believe that's gonna go to Maven. But yeah, so a disarm mechanic would be really interesting if you think about it, because if you have a long sword and you get somehow disarmed and you drop that, you have a couple options. You could try and pick it up. And again, I don't want to do too much theory crafting here, but we'll get into a little bit of stuff because it's relevant. It's on topic for what we have going on here. If you have a disarm mechanic and you drop your longsword, you should be able to pull out a secondary weapon to be able to keep fighting. I'm not sure how they would balance that. They would take a lot to balance that, but they talk about how the combat system from Alpha 1 to Alpha 2 being this last Wilderness Alpha, they were almost 100% different under the hood. I was not in the first Alpha, so I don't have anything really to compare this to, but that sounds crazy. 100% different under the hood for the combat. I generally liked the combat. I talked about a couple pain points with it that I think need to be addressed going forward. They talk about them a little bit down below here, but those who played in both, they're saying, would notice the system in terms of gear progression, your stats, your movement. They were all very different and much improved. Again, I cannot speak to if they are actually much improved, but I will tell you that it 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 felt pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. There was a couple pain points like the animations, which they talk about, um, that felt a little sluggish. I don't like being locked into animations. I don't think it's good for a game when you get locked into animations. That being said, Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast did some of the best combat I ever liked, ever. And you got locked into a certain animations in that game, but those were like the DFAs or the death from aboves, the special moves for your lightsaber styles. So it makes sense when you do, if you're doing a special attack with a spear or something, you're going to get locked into some form of animation. But I like to have authority over my character. That's one of the things that makes the engine for World of Warcraft feel so good. It's an old engine, but it feels so good because you have authority over your character's movements at all time. It's very responsive. That's what I enjoy in a game, is when you have authority, over the responsiveness over your character. Maven says that speaks to me that they are willing to approach the system with a different build if it allows them to build the game they are after. Yeah, I agree. You know, the fact that they changed the combat system 100% and that they enjoyed for the I don't know if you just joined or if you've been here for a little bit. They talk up above about how it brought them joy to see the things that we built and stuff using their game. It was like witnessing the birth of their game. It's great to hear that from Mainframe, knowing that they're enjoying the feedback from us. But yeah, the combat system is going to make or break this game, in my opinion, because yeah, you could be a builder, yeah, you could be a crafter, but at the core of a game like this is combat. Every person is going to, in some way, shape, or form, engaging in combat. Now, I guess there could be the outliers, but the exception doesn't make the rule, right? So it's going to come down to, is this combat going to feel good? Do you have authority over the movement of your characters? Are you getting locked into long, arduous animations and things like that that is making it not feel good? So it's going to be interesting to see how this progresses going forward. They talk about how they still have a long way to go with the combat system and they want to make it feel great. That's going to be pivotal, is to see what they think it feeling great is. Now, hopefully they're going to continue to take our thoughts on this and take it to heart and actually implement some of the changes that we're talking about. And maybe we can have a big voice. If my channel grows large enough, maybe they'll, take viewer thoughts into consideration as well. But you guys have to make sure that when we get into the next alpha or into the early access, we have to make sure that I used the tool to report every bug I found at the end. I didn't do it like as I found them, so you guys didn't get to witness me doing that. You may have seen it in the last stream, part 10, I think it was. At the very end, I put in all of my issues, all of my complaints, all of my concerns. I submitted everything. So rest assured that the things that I talk about, I actually do something about it and I make sure that it gets into the right hands, which I used their reporting tool and I, made it known on the Discord and stuff as well. Sparta says, completely agree. Player agency is very important. Yes, I could not agree more. And I'm happy to hear that other people think that as well. Player agency, having authority over your character, is one of the most important things. So it's going to be great to see what they think the combat feeling great going forward is. Let me get this lined up here on screen. So what they're doing right now, based on the feedback and internal testing, spans a vast spectrum. They're going to be improving movement and responsiveness during melee to add more visuals to it and more audio feedback on your actions. So this goes into some of the things that we just talked about there, right? So we're talking about how we want more authority and, control over our characters. Some more agency. I really like that word, Sparta, agency. Having agency over your character is very, very important. And they talk about that here, improving movement, responsiveness during melee. I would hope that would carry over to ranged as well, because the bows didn't feel terrible, to be honest. The bows felt pretty decent, but I think it's the only melee weapon. I think, no, you can throw could you throw your spears? I want to say you could, but my main experience with it was the bow, because I'm not going to chuck my spear if I don't have another weapon, to back it up. Maven says, I'm glad they built an in-game feedback feature. Yeah, having an in-game feature for that is really great because people are they're less likely to go to a third party, not a third party, but an external tool to do stuff. That was one of my main gripes with Elite Dangerous, was they didn't have a lot of the in-game tools that you needed in order to play the game. You had to go to look at market prices and stuff on other tools. You had to go to EDDB in order to get information you need in order to play the game properly. And I never really liked that. So the fact that they have this tool in game to be able to report stuff makes me hopeful that they're going to also have all of the tools in game for that economy once they do flesh out that economy. Maven also says, I know it really helped to give feedback in the moment. Yeah, we're talking about the reporting system, and it had things that you really wanted to give. Oh, you had things that you really wanted to give feedback on. Yeah, and it's good that you gave that feedback because that stuff is important. I think that they are listening. You didn't figure out how to throw your spear. I can't remember if I actually figured out how to throw the spear. Maybe I'm misremembering and I did, or maybe I didn't. I'm not sure. But my main interaction with the ranged combat system was the bow. And I thought the bow was pretty good. I mean, it was used for what it was used for. I mean, I'm sure you could use it for more combat if you had other people with you. Someone was holding aggro or something, like your traditional tank and spank. You got your tank, your healer, your DPS. You have range DPS, melee DPS. But the bow did not feel bad. It was really good for hunting deer. It allowed me to not have to run around like an idiot for too long to be able to catch up to the deer. Although the spear was really good for the deer as well. Let's see what else they say here. So they talk about improving the movement and responsiveness during melee and more visuals. So more visuals, I think, are going to be great because the animations did seem a little bit limited and they were a tiny bit clunky in my opinion. When you did the spear, you're locked into that animation and then you'd stab forward. It felt good to see the damage that it did. The whirlwind of the great sword, I don't know if that's, when are you ever going to be completely surrounded? I guess it's very niche. The spear, they have to be lined up. I feel like the mace and the sword, the single-handed weapons, had very good. They had very good attacks, like their special attacks. Maven says you kept thinking a cool Conan throwing mechanic could be very useful. Conan Exiles, great game. Combat in that game feels great. Mounted combat in that game feels awesome. I haven't played that game in a very long time. I stopped keeping up with it because they push out patches so fast. And my community, we host servers for games. Like we're gonna be hosting Project Zomboid server. We have a V Rising server right now. So if you guys want to take part in those, make sure you join the Discord and join our servers and have some fun with us in the meantime while we wait for PAX Day to come out. But I haven't played Conan Exiles in a while because they keep releasing huge updates and it always breaks my server. That's why I stopped playing Unturned back in the day. I used to have a big Unturned community and we used to play Unturned a lot, but every Friday he would put out an update and it would completely break my server and all the mods and everything, and it got frustrating and tiresome. And that's how Conan became. There's a lot of really good mods that I can't live without in Conan. At least Minecraft, you can choose what version you play. In Conan, it's a lot more difficult to stop updates, tell people, no, we're running this version of the game. So I ended up stop playing a lot of Conan until the updates can slow down and they stabilize. Great, they're updating the game, but when you have game breaking stuff all the time, same with 7 Days to Die. They would release a new alpha and it would completely break your whole map. You'd have to start over and stuff like that. So I was waiting for it to just fully slow down with all of those and come out. But a little bit of a tangent there. But yeah, Conan throwing mechanic, that'd be really cool to see their mounted combat from Conan, something similar. I'm all for taking good ideas from other games and bringing them together. I think if someone did something good, it's like with coding, right? You don't want to repeat someone else's work, so you learn from it and you implement it. I think the same thing can apply to game development. When you see a good, well, look at all survival game genre just exploded once the first survival game took off. So, obviously they're learning from each other and evolving. But I would not be mad to see mounted combat systems similar or akin to Conan Exiles coming over here. And I'm interested to see what they mean by audio feedback. I guess just nicer noises for the swords swinging through the air and stuff. Maybe more, maybe like clashes if the swords hit or you're hitting a shield, you can hear a thud. That would be kind of interesting to see. Let's scroll down here and see what else they talk about. So they talk about how they've already fixed some performance issues. Wait, I think I skipped a spot here. What else did they say? They're talking about how they want to get some more feedback from players. Oh yeah, I touched on that. How they want to get it to a state where it feels great. Yeah. So they talk about here performance issues. And that was what was contributing to a lot of the floaty feeling of the combat in the Alpha 2, this Wilderness Alpha, again, this past Alpha. They tuned the movement system so melee attacks lock in place for a shorter duration. So they've already addressed some of the authority and agency that you have over your character. Grab a quick sip of water here. Pardon me. Doing a lot of talking in this podcast. So they've already given us more agency over our character. I'm going to want to test that. Hopefully I can get into first wave of whatever else is coming out. Hopefully, again, all of you can too. That's why you should make sure you sign up with my friend code. I think somebody has my friend code. I sent it to somebody. If you do have it, or captured it from a previous stream or something, if you could, I'm going to put it in the chat as well, or in the description. I forgot to attach it already, but just throw it in chat if you have it. If not, that's okay. But so they're addressing the floating feeling in combat by improving server performance and shortening the duration of your melee animations, which is great to hear that we're going to be able to move our character more and not be locked into those animations. They've rebalanced some of the gear and enemies, including Shield Bash, which was very overpowered. I talked about this extensively during my stream, talking about how this combo was unbelievable. It was so powerful. You go in, 3 wolves, right? Charge me. Shield bash, they're all stunned. Hit, hit, hit. Do the special attack with a mace. Now they're stunned again. Hit, hit. They're all dead. I don't even take damage. 3 wolves, gone, done. Extremely, extremely overpowered. They talk a little bit more about that in the PvP section here, which is coming up. But it's good to see that they're tuning. You know, it can feel bad when you learn a good combo that you know are going to want to use. You found this nice combo. It can feel bad when it gets nerfed, but it's also bad for the game when something's overpowered, right? Because when anything's overpowered, it becomes the meta. When something becomes meta, it's all you see. When it's all you see, there's no more variety in the world. So tuning and balancing is very important to make sure that every part of combat, every type of weapon has a place, right? Because you want to see that variety in a world like this. You don't want everyone running around just using the same weapons. They go on to talk about PvP a little bit here now. So let me get this lined up here. So for PvP, they want to start off by apologizing to people who wanted to participate in PvP but couldn't due to the short duration of the test. Now, I don't know what they mean by this because that zone, this all took place in a very specific zone. They talk about it down here. Lioness was a specific zone, and we talked about how embarrassed square vegetable. There's my code. Thank you very much, Maven. So for anyone who wants to sign up now, I'm gonna try my best to remember to take that and put it in the description of all PAX Day videos. So that way, if anyone wants to sign up for this alpha, I think it increases your chances of getting in. Because if they take me in, they'll bring the rest of the group in as well. So that way we can all work together. I think that's how that clan up on the hill ended up doing that. Andrew, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the podcast. I see maybe you had something you wanted to say. Make sure if you pop it in chat and I'll read it off and we could talk about it if you have anything that you want to say. But welcome to the Inner Sleuths. Welcome to our first PAX Day podcast, PaxCast. Maven says, make sure you enter it as non-caps when signing up for the alpha. Okay, yeah, all lowercase, embarrassed square vegetable. Again, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to cut that and put it in the description. Maven says I went towards the end, but there was no one else there doing PvP to try it out with. Yeah, so here's the thing. That zone was there from the beginning, right? It didn't just like all of a sudden unlock. They did a test at the end where they like told everyone, hey, go here, engage in PvP, and let us know what you think and just try it out, right? So they told us to go there, but that was there from the beginning. I didn't find it until around the end when I started to explore and we found that I cannot remember for the life of me the name of the zone, but we went to that other zone and we found out where we want to, claim our land at. I like how the PvP zone is sort of a quick travel system. The world is connected with gates. These gates are kind of far depending on where you currently live, the ones that directly connect to the other zones, the other maps. But if you go through the PvP zone, it directly connects to all of the 4 or 5, I forgot how many there are, other zones. So you can take the risk to fast travel through there. A little bit of theory craft. If they ever do implement something like carriages or convoys and stuff for trading goods, it'd be really cool to see if you could choose to have it go through that zone, and that could be a risk reward. You get your goods there faster, you're providing, you have to hire some mercenaries to protect it or something like that. That level of depth would be so good to see there. Let's catch up on a little bit of chat. So Maven says, he didn't realize it was there until the last couple of days. The journey across the map was quite expansive. I agree. I had to, if you watched it happen, I think Maven, you were there. Some other people were there. Templar was there. It was crazy trying to get across that. I mean, I know we're going to get mounts and stuff. Well, I don't know if we're going to get mounts, but it would be cool to get mounts because traveling is pretty a pretty big task right now. So once I found out about that PvP zone and someone on the Discord linked me, maybe it was even someone in chat, they linked me to that map which showed the interconnectings of the zones. It was a lot faster to go through that PvP zone. But again, risk reward. You want to engage, it's going to cost you. It could cost you, you know. Sparta says there was an issue with a small but very close knit clan. Let's see, what's this issue? But we had to work like mad to get reasonable equipment. We just didn't have enough time to get kitted out to be viable in PvP. I got kitted out pretty well. I didn't want to engage too much in PvP though on the stream because stream sniping is a big thing. I mean, I did a small V Rising server already and I already had an issue with stream sniping. People use that information against you. So it's kind of hard to do PvP. I run a 20-second delay. There's even a 20-second delay right now. I just keep it for all of my streams just to have consistency. But that being said, stream sniping is a big thing. People like to just mess with streamers, and it's a shame because we should be able to bring light to, the game and issues and things like that without worrying about that, but that does exist. Templar says it was a long journey, that's for sure. Yeah, it was a pretty long journey. So they apologize. I'm not really sure why, because that zone was there from the beginning. They just did the test later in it, which made sense. Nobody wanted to risk, because it's full loot PvP, which they talk about down here. It's full loot PvP, and they didn't want people to risk all their gear at the beginning. Who would want to do that, But I'm not sure everybody was able to take part in it though throughout the alpha. Full loot was considered extremely hardcore. I agree. I'm not a huge fan of full loot PvP. I like how V Rising did it. For those of you who don't know, V Rising is a vampire survival game, and they have bloodbound gear. Grab a quick drink of water here. Bloodbound gear in V Rising is a system where your equipment is not lootable. It is bound to your character. All of your resources and things that you've gathered, those are lootable. Your gear is not. You do sustain losses in terms of your resources, and your durability takes a hit. I think that's a pretty fair system. It is akin to a soft core, hard core. It's in the middle a little bit. It's medium core, maybe we'll call it. It's not as brutal as full loot. I'm not a huge fan of full loot PvP. You could disagree with me on that. It's very, very harsh because you don't have control, and I know that's the point of PvP. You don't have control over everything that takes place in PvP. People can grief you in PvP. In World of Warcraft, there's a whole group of people who they take over epic battlegrounds and battlegrounds with pre-made groups, and they just mud stomp you into the ground. And if you had full loot PvP in there or something a little more than just wasting your time getting mud stomped, it can feel very, very bad to lose everything due to one small mistake or getting griefed or stream sniped. They somewhat agree that it's extremely hardcore. This test was intended to gauge how far they can go with the system. So again, they're going to be getting some information, from us, and they're going to be tweaking it, hopefully, going forward. Give me 1 second here. All right, sorry about that. So they talk about how they want PvP and PAX Day to be very consequential. And I agree, it should be very consequential, but full loot is extremely consequential, in my opinion. Now, not everyone's going to agree with that. Some people just don't even like PvP, so they don't even care but you should care, because when you play a game for a very long time, the other half of the game, like if you play only PvE in World of Warcraft, eventually you're probably going to try PvP. And it'd be nice for that system for you to have had some input on that system. So at least it's something that everybody can enjoy, right? So it being full loot PvP that's extremely consequential. And I'd like it to just be very consequential. If they could tweak that or dial that in somehow, that'd be nice. But yeah, full loot rights are part of the design of this game PAX Day going forward for the open PvP areas. So they are going to be going forward with full loot rights as part of the design. We'll see the tweaks and evolution of that and see exactly what that means, but maybe it just means we need to be the ones traveling in packs, you know? We need to be the ones locking down the highways for or maybe we're the ones that people hire when the highways are locked down and we got to go in and help clear it out. It'll be interesting to see. And one of the main things about that too is it's going to be how easy is it to loot someone's corpse? Do you just press a button and get all their stuff? Or can your party members defend your corpse and push them back, and then you have enough time to get back? But again, traveling's arduous, you know. But maybe you'll have enough time to get back in order to get your stuff back before it gets stolen. So right now they constricted PvP only to the Lioness region. Was considered too challenging. I'm not sure about that. I mean, it would be cool to have like world PvP zones, like this area is contested or whatever. You know, right now the Lioness zone is kind of like world PvP from Guild Wars, where you go to this zone and you compete on a server to server basis. So it would be kind of cool to see contested areas that PvP is enabled. Maybe there's, high resource yield here or something, or a quarry that's in the middle of the zone that's contested or something like that. That would be kind of cool for small strafing runs and stuff like that, as opposed to needing to go to a specific region. So maybe that's what they're referring to here. Maven says it's very easy. I found fallen people there, and after passing with a quick E or pressing a quick E, you were on your way with all their goods. Yeah, see, so they need to make it a little more in depth to loot the stuff. Maybe you have to hold a button in order to open up the inventory after a certain amount of time. So you have to be safe in order to loot it. I really like that idea. Star Citizen recently just changed their combat PvP looting system to where if you just open up the inventory, you can see all the stuff that you will want to take immediately, such as weapons, ammo, med supplies, and things of that nature, without having to go through the clunky. I mean, but their inventory system's not really refined that well yet, but it's not clunky anymore. You just can grab the stuff you need immediately. They added in ammo repooling and stuff like that. So having a system where you have to like hold down in order to open up the container to loot it would be one small fix, in my opinion, that would go a long way to making it feel a little bit better, because then someone can't just grab your stuff off a fallen ally and run away with it right away. You have a chance to defend it. But they're talking about the travel time was very long for many people to get to the zone, which was true. It took a very long time to get to that zone. I didn't even know really that it was there at first. I mean, you saw my expression when, well, you didn't see my expression, but you heard my expression of when I stumbled across it. Maven says it was the last hour of the alpha and nothing really to do with the goods, but still, yeah, I guess they did push that PvP test at the very, very end where they wanted everyone to go there because, yeah, you're going to lose all your stuff anyways, right? So what does it matter? But still, for the health of the game going forward, it would be nice to have a little more in-depth system for that. But they say, rest assured, they're going to be expanding PvP to include some other options outside of just the Lioness area, which again, little conflict zones and stuff, that's going to be great to see. It'll be cool to have certain little areas or quarries or contested areas. Maybe they have some better resource yields inside of those zones, high risk, high reward. Sparta says perhaps PAX Day could make you search the body before you can just see what the body has on it. Yeah, something like that. I'm not a big fan of games where you have to like hold E to interact with something, like hold this down to charge it up just to then interact with something, like pressing a button on a console or something like that, or opening a door. That doesn't really make sense because it's like I'm clearly pressing the key to open the door. Just open the door, right? But in terms of looting a PvP corpse, it makes sense to have that mechanic in place because it's going to limit your ability to just steal someone's stuff right away. It makes sense in the context, right? So let's see what else they go on to say here. What we want to get out of the PvP system is pretty challenging. We know many of you absolutely love PvP. I love PvP. I'm a big PvPer in most games. Certain games, not so much. Like World of Warcraft, I love PvP. I haven't played World of Warcraft in some time now because of reasons, but This podcast is not about World of Warcraft, although I'm going to use my experiences. My experiences from other games influence my outlook on PAX Day, right? So I'm going to touch on those things at some point. But many of you don't like PvP, and they don't want to play a game that forces you to PvP. So they're not going to force you to PvP, which I think that's great. Some people, because you're going to open up the game, right? You're going to open up the game to a lot more people, right? So you're not going to be forced to PvP. You're not going to be being griefed by people all the time when you don't want to engage in that. I like the option of being able to opt in or out. That being said, there should be risk reward, right? You don't want to tune in for PvP without having some form of greater reward. They want PAX Day to be a game of both types that for both types of players. So basically, they want both types of players, PvEers and PvPers, to be able to love the game, which is great to see that they're focusing on both aspects, right? Again, this really comes down to Mainframe not just focusing hyper on what they want it for what's going to be good for all the different types of players that are going to be playing this sandbox MMO. Because again, it is an MMO at the end of the day. You need to have something for everybody if you want to have a big player base. What this means in practice is that PvP will continue to be optional in the future. So if you go to those PvP zones, you're engaging in PvP. You made the choice to engage in PvP. You could take the long way. You could take the long route. That's your choice, right? There's a reward for choosing PvP. You can go to Lioness, take a shortcut, stuff like that. So they want to avoid making content that players cannot experience without participating in PvP. Again, that's great to see, because if somebody does not want to PvP, they should not have to. And having the ability to earn those same resources, just maybe at a slower rate in a non-PvP zone, that could go a long way to appease both sides. On a very practical side, here they're talking about the shield bash. It did not do great things in PvP. Well, I guess it did do great things, but it did too great of things. They're talking about how it didn't do great things from a sense of gameplay. It was too OP, so it was broken, but for the people who were using it, it was probably pretty great. So it was nerfed. You will not be able to stun lock people in the future. So no more of the just shield bash, shield bash, shield bash. They should have a stun, like diminished return thing, like how World of Warcraft does. The more you get stunned, the less impact it has. Some form of resilience there. When you're flagged for PvP, you'll no longer see other players who are not on your side on the map. I complained about that. I talked about that with them, and I'm glad that they have actually taken that to heart, because it didn't make any sense. I figured it was just a bug, but the fact that it was there was kind of strange. You should not have been able to see other players on the map when they're not in your party, they're not in your clan. Why can you see them on the map? You can hunt people down that way. So great to see that must have just been a bug or an oversight. So I'm glad to see that got resolved. So that kind of tidies up a lot of the stuff that they wanted to talk about when it came to combat and PvP. I think there's more to be talked about and done there, such as you guys saw how I cheesed the bears. I was able to hop on a rock where the animals can't get you. You just stab down. Not only does that level up your weapon skill artificially, it also gives you resources artificially. I'm not a fan of exploiting. On my servers, I normally have a strict no exploiting rule. Now, Ring Around the Rosie with bosses in V Rising, I don't consider that exploiting. That's kiting. In World of Warcraft, kiting is a thing. In V Rising, kiting is a thing. I believe kiting should be able to be a thing. I'm not sure how you would do it in a low fantasy game such as PAX Day, where it's a lot more realistic than some of these other games. But if there is a way where you're able to do that, I think that is not an exploit. That is an intended feature of the system. But they need to have something where the animals can immune you if they cannot reach you, or they reset. Something like how World of Warcraft has that. Now that can break your immersion. You could argue, well, if the bear's standing there, I should be able to stab it and kill it, right? Yeah, but a bear's not just going to stand there. Same with the wolves. Like, they're not just going to go to an area where they can't reach you and just stand there and growl at you and let you stab them in the face. Watch my previous shorts. Human ingenuity pointy stick for the win. Like, you should not be able to just stand there and they just take it. That doesn't make sense. So they need to either tweak the AI or implement some form of combat system that's going to alleviate those forms of exploiting. Because when the game fully releases, I'm not really going to want to use exploits in order to progress, just to be able to keep up with people who are using the exploits. That's why things like this are important that they get fixed, right? You may not care about it because you're not going to use it. Yeah, but the other guy's going to use it and it's going to advance him faster and farther than you. And it's not going to be fair, because if you don't utilize it, you're not going to get to the same level as quickly. It comes down to meta things as well, but the meta is different than using exploits to advance. So I really hope that they can tidy up those issues with combat. Other than that, I think we touched on most of the things about the combat. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to talk about before we move on to crafting and resource harvesting, because this is a big one. This is a big point that I want to make here. I think that's about it for combat. So they go on to say that we've made many balancing and tweaks to recipes and are considering improving the resource distribution to make some resources easier to find and others more scarce. Clay, 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 clay. It was really, really hard to find clay when clay was in high demand. Now, I agree that that should be the case. Resource distribution should be a supply demand thing. Certain resources are going to be more rare. The distribution of resources kind of made sense to me because clay and like cattails and, well, whatever else, like things spawned, flint, things like that spawned where they should. They made sense there by riverbeds and stuff. There was some clay in some other areas that was a little strange, but I mean, I guess you could find clay just about anywhere if you dig down deep enough. But the resource gathering, as far as like the distribution of where they were, wasn't too bad. Clay was very rare at first because everybody wanted it. So they were just camping the nodes. I would like to see the distribution of resources be separated. I don't like running into a field of flax, harvesting a circle of flax or, like a patch of flax, and also picking up other flowers that are used for cooking and stuff, because I may not be trying to harvest those. And it creates this cumbersome system where I'm going in my inventory now to drop those things to make more room for the stuff that I was trying to pick up. It's a little bit annoying. It's a little bit cumbersome. Not a huge deal, but it's something that I did report on, and I would like to see a separation of those. Just don't mix other things in with the nodes. It'd be like having flint mixed in with clay nodes. You're picking up half clay, half flint. Maybe you don't want flint. Maybe you don't want clay. It just creates this system now where you're mining the nodes and then you're dropping the stuff on the ground. It creates clutter, which is probably harder on the servers, especially on a large server with thousands of people, dropping a lot of stuff on the ground that has to be processed. It's creating visual lag, probably, if there's too many bags being rendered and stuff like that. So just having a system where you don't have to loot all kinds of other stuff that you don't want in order to get the stuff that you do want, that type of separation would be really nice. Let's see, what else do they say here? We agree that starting experience in crafting is currently overwhelming and a bit confusing. I kind of disagree with that. I figured stuff out pretty quick. I didn't really have an issue distinguishing how to craft certain things. I mean, I like the mystery. I don't want things that are just super straightforward. Oh, you do this, then you do that. Now you do this, you're done. Okay. Like, I like the mystery of figuring things out. It's fun for me. Probably not for everyone, but it's fun for me to be able to problem solve and figure out what makes sense. And everything did make sense in PAX Day. When I was crafting, to make certain things, I could figure out what station I had to do it at. I could figure out what the materials would yield and stuff like that. So I feel like it was a very good system. I wasn't overwhelmed with it. The only issue I had was the progression of the crafting. As a single player, it was very harsh. I had to collect, if you saw my streams, I had to collect millions of flax back and forth and back and forth and back and forth over and over and over. And it created there were some dull moments during the streams and there was nothing I could do about it. I tried to keep it as exciting as I could, and I also did a lot of gathering off stream as well. I just would go gather a bunch of stuff so that way the next stream, like after I finished streaming, I'd gather a bunch of stuff so that way the next stream I'd have all the resources ready to go. But they're currently working on ironing that out a little bit at the beginning, which is, that's good to hear that they're going to be working on that. One of our priorities they talk about is to make balancing changes to address part of the gameplay specifically, or this part of the gameplay specifically. So they're talking about crafting here. Balancing crafting is what I wanted from the beginning. I mean, they need to balance this. Templar says, "Oh yeah, the full flax stream. Yeah, there's nothing I could do about it. You know, I felt bad. We still had some good conversations and stuff, and it was still fun and engaging. But Templar remembers that flax stream. I think there was like 2 or 3 of them where the majority of it was me bullshitting about a bunch of other stuff while collecting flax, and it was ridiculous. And the problem wasn't that I had to collect the flax. I don't want to sound like I'm just complaining about having to collect things in a crafting system in an MMO. That's not the case. The problem was when I would go to craft something with that flax, it just didn't feel good because if you fail the recipe, you got nothing. And it stole almost all of your material. You got almost nothing back and you got no experience, right? You need to get some experience for failing. I would argue you should get more experience for failing. I don't think that would be a good gameplay system, but in real life, when you fail something, you get a lot of information. There was someone on the Discord and somewhere else on some forums, they were talking about how they're a carpenter in real life. I don't remember their name, so sorry I can't give you the proper credit that you're due here, but they said they're a carpenter in real life, and when they do something wrong, they learn more about it than when they do it right. Making a light bulb, right? You find a million ways not to make the light bulb. You're learning along the way. So I don't agree with the difficulty of the crafting system right now. If you're not going to give me experience, give me most of my materials back. If you're not going to give me most of my materials back, give me experience. There was a couple recipes where there was this huge divide between the easy recipes where you're getting nothing, which again, I think you should get something for it being very easy. You should still get experience or something. Because if I want to make a million wooden pegs and they're easy or trivial, I'm still getting repetition in, right? You're still learning. Let's catch up on a little bit of chat here. Sparta says, I agree with the crafting system was very interesting. The joy of discovering was rewarding. Yeah, so that part was very good. Figuring it out on your own and not just having some arbitrary in-game system to uncover these was very good. And then he also goes on to say, or they also go on to say that the balance does need work. Some of the gaps in the crafting progression needs to be reduced. I'm sure they will remedy it, but it was frustrating to fail and gain nothing, no XP or items. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about, Sparta. You're right on point there with me. Maven says, I do metal smithing. I don't lose all of my material when I fail, what you were trying to accomplish. Exactly. So Maven, you work with metal, right? If you take 100 ounces of steel or iron and you're working it into a hammerhead, if you mess up and like misform it, now I don't know the tensile strength or the reforging capability or things like that when it comes to metal alloys and metalworking, but I would gather that if you messed up the shape, you could refire it, you could heat it back up as long as you did not quench it and harden it, you could heat it back up and you could rework that material, right? So when I'm making something in PAX Day that's made out of metal, such as a weapon head or something, and I try to make that into a actual product, losing the actual metal piece does not make sense. Give me the raw ingot back. Give me a messed up ingot that takes up a weird inventory slot and I have to refire it, right? Let's say I make a large axe head. It's very hard to make. It took me a long time. I failed a bunch. While you're failing to make it, you should get messed up metal chunks back that you can remelt into the same amount of metal. Maybe you get a little bit less because you had to chip some off or something, and I don't know, but you should be able to remake an ingot from it, I would think. That being said, once you have the axe head and I go to turn that axe head into an actual axe by attaching a handle with a lashing, maybe some nails or rivets or something like that, if I fail, sure, maybe the wood burnt up, my handle's fucked, right? I should still get the metal back, even the bolts and stuff. You should get all of the metal back. I get it, it's a game system, and we're not looking 100% at realism here, but you should get the metal pieces back. Maven says you have a lump of material, you can melt it back down. You work with silver. Yeah, Exactly. See, so you get the material back. I don't claim to be a metalsmith, but we got one here talking in chat. Maven works with metal, and he's agreeing with what I'm saying here. You get that metal back. You remake that ingot. So that needs a lot of work. They need more middle ground recipes to where you can bridge the gap a little more. And again, most of this stuff is just database entries. This won't really even take that much work. I don't know how their system is set up. I don't know how the game's designed, like made, but for a lot of games, things like this, numbers and stuff, that's all in a database. They can just tweak that. So one of their priorities is to make balancing changes, which is great to see. I really hope that they take, and the community was talking about that too. So it's not just us, it's not just me. Everybody on the Discord was talking about it as well. They're looking into adding some tutorial steps for the more essential related features as well, that's good to hear because that tutorials are always good for people who want them, right? You don't want a tutorial, you don't need it. If you need it, you got it. As long as it's toggleable, because certain things, like when it's too guided of an experience, you lose a lot of the mystery and the fun of exploring. So they talk about here some of the long list of suggestions of quality of life features related to inventory management, pinning recipes, stack size, labeling containers, trading between players, recipe duration, and so on. So again, this is all great stuff to hear. Pinning recipes, yes, please. There are certain recipes that I would love to be able to pin that I mean right now there's not too many recipes, so I don't see it being a huge issue. When you go to a workstation, it's not that hard to find what you're looking for. But I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to like say no, I don't want to be able to pin it. Yes, give me more features, right? The more accessibility things, because that's kind of like an accessibility thing. That comes down to dexterity, you know. So adding in pinning is going to be good. Stack sizes, I talked about this too. It doesn't make sense. Some of the stack sizes were a bit weird. Realistically, from a gameplay standpoint, they worked. But from a realism standpoint, it was kind of weird to have like, I forgot what the exact stack sizes were, but you could have like 32 flax or like 16 metal ingots. Like, how are those taking up the same space? I would like to see an inventory system that is weight based and size based. I feel like those add the correct level of depth that you need. Because if you have a backpack that has X amount of volume, it can also hold X amount of weight. If you put the weight but not the volume, it's going to be filled to capacity before the volume is filled because you have dense, heavy objects such as ingots or metal in there. Whereas if you have a lot of flax or cotton, that's going to take up a lot of volume but not weigh a lot. So I think there should be a weight and volume size. A lot of people won't like that because it's another level of restriction, but if balanced correctly with what they're talking about stack sizes, it could work very well. Labeling containers is going to be great. Trading between players, I talked a lot about Theorycraft on what they could do with this. If they add in some form of trade system or between clans and stuff like that, and not just players, if you can have a marketplace or caravans, that could be a very fulfilling system. You could have to hire guards, like I said. You could be the guard. You could hire someone who's the professional in transporting goods. I don't know, but the more depth on trading, the better, in my opinion. Recipe durations, I'm not sure what they mean by that. If they're talking about how long something takes to craft, I'm okay with balancing that. Yeah, absolutely. They're committed to improving all of this, and the feedback they received was very helpful in prioritizing this work. So, you know, the more people that report things, again, going back to the importance of making sure that you're reporting things, the more people that report certain things, it's moving it up on their priority list. So that's crafting and harvesting. That's my 2 cents on it. I mean, really when it comes down to it, it's just those big pain points that we talked about. But easy fixes. They just need to do it. They just got to fix it. That brings us down to building. Get this lined up here. So this building category, I don't have too much to say on building because I didn't really do too much building, but they were blown away by the creations that were made. Before the test, there was a lot of debate on whether you'd have the time to build enough in a week. So seeing some of the clans build a full-blown fortified villages and so on, and solo players managing to have their little homes fully decorated was pretty amazing. Again, I didn't do too much with the building because I knew it was a limited test. I wanted to get down to the things that I wanted to test. But I definitely appreciated seeing a lot of other people's builds and stuff. It was really amazing. I liked a lot of the floor plans. You can see a really cool picture here of someone built like this skeleton with a crown on the front of a castle, like stuff like that. That's really cool. I enjoy seeing things like that, even though it's maybe not thematically correct for the era. It's not just, I was talking before about thematically correct stuff, but if people can build this, what else can they build? Who's moderating that? But yeah, that's really, really cool build right there. Scroll down a little so we can get this other build on screen. As with crafting, we're parsing a long list of our suggestions. They're parsing the list of our suggestions to from improving the usability of the building system and for a bunch of new content. So that's great to hear that they're going to be adding more ways for us to build. I love cosmetics. I love things that don't necessarily serve a purpose that just look nice. The cosmetics of having benches and things. It it makes the world not just be functional, it makes it enjoyable. When you can build gardens and places to relax, it's makes it so much more enjoyable. Templar says he's pumped to do more building. Yes, I really want to get into the building system. One of my good friends, one of the other sleuths, who, if you've followed some of my previous content, Jess Calamity, she is a huge builder. She loves building beautiful things. I mean, if we have a clan and she plays this, she will be building all day. She loves it. And rightfully so. Building can be very satisfying in games like this. I think they need to refine the physics system a little more to place a little more restrictions on some things that people can do. I saw people build bridges across water, man-made bridges. I think, and you may disagree, so there's two things I want to talk about here. One part of me wants the bridges that are part of the map to go away. Get rid of them. I think that, unless they have some thematical purpose, like they're part of a base, or maybe there's some lore behind how, the previous civilizations or these people build this bridge or something. I think they should look different then, because every society is going to have different architecture. They should be degraded if they're ruins. But if you get rid of the bridges, you force players to build bridges then, which they can then control. If you have it part of but the other part of me is saying, like, if they are to have some type of traversal system for wagons or, carriages and stuff like that, they may need to have bridges be a part of the road structure to prevent players from building on them. So those are my two takes on it. It'd be really cool to see player run bridges with tolls and enforcement. It would also be cool to have carriages using the in-game road system, because players they're not supposed to be able to build on the roads. I would like to see that players be pushed back a little bit further off the roads. But yeah, it's good to know that they're, adding some new content in there. A notable part of the system we're planning on improving soon is the permissions. This is a big thing for me. If you're planning on having big clans and you want to have ranks and stuff, which I totally intend to do, I want to have kings, queens, knights, Templars, peasants. I want to have royal guard and all kinds of ranks and officials and stuff. I want to have people who are role playing as our diplomatic heads. I want to have an entire civilization of not just a clan. I want to have like our clan within a clan. I want to have a civilization where I can be it's not just a power thing. I don't care if I'm the king or not, but we can have like a council or a round table, and it'd be really cool to have a permission system that allowed you to have people who were villagers or citizens also taking part in this, and they can have permissions as well. A very rich permission system is essential. I'm going to grab a quick drink of water here. Templar says, I kind of hope they add road building or just like a path system within your plot. That would be really cool. Yeah. Again, if that can go and feed off of the already existing pathing system, or if they do add, caravans and stuff, having a pathing system that you build on your land where things can go from, your stock room and stuff like that, or your storage building would be really cool. Maven says, have you given thought to a guild name, society name, or people name? It's tough, Maven, because I want to promote my channel at the same time. I've always used the name Blood Brothers for a clan or guild and stuff like that within a game, whereas my channel is Inner Sleuths. My community of gamers is Cheeky Buggers United. So I try not to make it too complicated, but I think for anyone really who has half a brain, they can understand. Cheeky Buggers United is my community. That's my Discord. We play all different types of games on there. And then I have Inner Sleuths, which is what you guys are listening to now. It's my media outlet for Cheeky Buggers United, our marketing, so to speak. And then whenever I'm in a game, I tend to softcore roleplay, and I always default to Blood Brothers for guild names and stuff. I don't know. There's just something about it. We're bound in blood. It's not an oath. It's not just an oath. It's a blood oath, Something like that really, it just resonates with me. So I've always tend to go with that. So I may go with Blood Brothers, but we could talk about that as a community. We can get your guys' ideas for the names of things and ranks and stuff. But to hear that they're working on fleshing out the permission system is really great to know, because I love a good permission system. When it comes to like Minecraft, permissions are essential. And not a lot of people, maybe you guys don't really care about, Minecraft and stuff, but again, I'm pulling from other experiences that I have in games and stuff and like that. And having a good permission system is very, very important. Maven says he spoke with his daughter and the name is going to be really important to her. She won't join if the name doesn't resonate with her. I feel like she's got a good point. Yeah, I agree. And that's why we can all talk about that as a community. Make sure everybody's on the Discord. We'll chat in the following days as more information comes out. Let me know if you guys want to see more of these too. If you guys just want to bullshit back and forth with more of these podcasts and more streams. I'm doing this live. Most podcasts, I don't know if a lot of podcasts are live. It's kind of hard to do this live because I'm on the spot. I'm reading things mostly for the first time on the spot and talking about things and just trying to keep it cohesive as well. So that way future people can watch and listen to the podcast and have a good sense of, I want it to be cohesive. So it's a little hard to do these live, but if you guys want to see more of these leading up to this, if this is going to be a big game for you guys, and it is like it is for me, guys and girls, let me know if you want to see more of these, and I will, if you're going to be tuning in, I'll pump out more of them. I just need to know that the community is going to be there. Again, this is my very first podcast. You guys are seeing this live for the first time. Let me know what you think about the setup. If there's anything that you think needs to be tweaked that you saw that was cool from another podcast setup. I think seeing us light up who's talking is very important. If you want to see other guests, some of the other sleuths, I know you guys don't really know a lot of the other sleuths yet, but if you'd like to see some guests on here, let me know. Put it in the comments, put it in the chat. Let me know everything. I'm taking all of your input. We're going to grow this channel. We're going to grow this community. We're going to have a lot of fun playing, not just PAX Day, but other games as well. But I know that you guys are here for PAX Day right now, so that's what we're focusing in on. But I'm going to think about the name in the Discord. Let me know what you guys think about different names, and we'll figure out what we can come up with. Ranks are going to be very important to me. I take things more of the hardcore, softcore role play in a sense where when I role play things, I don't assume the role of my character. I make actions based on what I think my character would do, if that makes sense. Oh, Maven, you're a mom. Sorry, I thought maybe you're a dad, or I don't know. I can't tell gender from chat, so Maven says this mom thinks it's cool. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, when I role play in something, I don't like talk like my character or act like them. I make choices based on how I think their persona would be perceived in the world, how they would act. If I have an honorable character and that's their, stance, I will make decisions for my character based on that. That's kind of how I softcore role play. Some people think it's cheesy. Uh, some people like to go a step further and hardcore role play where they're talking in character and stuff like that. It's hard for me to get that far into it, but the name of a clan or a guild is very important. I agree. And the name of ranks, I would argue, is very important as well, because if you have some strange title, we can name it Blood Brothers. And again, Brothers is not necessarily going to lock down the gender of males. Blood Brothers is just inambiguous. It's like when I say guys, I'm not referring to only the guys in chat. It's to everybody. It's just a matter of speech. But Maven says no worries. Haha. Yeah, sorry about that again. Now it's good to know that most of my channel analytics are boys and men, so it's good to know that there's some women tuning in as well. It's great to see. Sparta says this is going to be the game for me and my clan. You guys mentioned Conan earlier. We are leaving Conan and intended to be here for PAX Day. I expect to play for years to come. Yeah, I totally agree, Sparta. I tend to, because I make content for things. So if my content for PAX Day is going to be the content, I do some Star Wars Unlimited content, which is top-down, in-person tabletop stuff as well. I know that maybe you guys don't care as much about that, but I do other forms of content as well. But I'm still growing my channel. So whatever really takes off is what I lean into. Right now, the Star Wars Unlimited and PAX Day are my main pushing forces, but every now and then I'll occasionally just hop in and do something else on a whim, like V Rising or Project Zomboid's going to be a big one for me as well. But I'm definitely going to be keeping up to date with PAX Day and pushing the clan forward. But yeah, going back on topic a little bit here, the clan ranks are very important. So that ties into the permission system. I know we went on a huge tangent there, but the permission system is going to be extremely important to me. And the first step will be fine-tuning them for clans they talk about here and with more member levels. I want to make a permission system where you have peasants, you have whatever would be just above peasants, you're going to have everything in between peasants and royalty, all the way up to having a military arm. I like having titles for people. In my Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast clans and servers and stuff that I used to host a long time ago, this is a long time ago, I used to be in Keepers of the Peace, which was a Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast clan a long time ago. And we had ranks for people. You had Jedi Master, you had Jedi Knight, you had ambassadors who would reach out to other clans and make alliances and things. I fully intend to have a fully functioning system like that, if the system's in place in game, to be able to have ranks for people. So Maven, if you're very good with diplomatic things, you could be the diplomatic arm. If you're the more military driven, you could be the military commander or something, and we all come together as a cohesive clan when everyone has their ranks. And I think that that's just going to be a very cool system, especially in a low fantasy game like PAX Day. It's interesting they call it low fantasy, right? Because there's magic. There's literally magic. I didn't get to mess around with it too much, but those like collar stones or whatever, they carved stones or whatever they called them, those have to do with magic. And I saw spell slots. So that's going to be really interesting to see as well. But these systems are going to be to better manage containers, crafting stations, and just the building part, which is going to be great to see that it's not just going to be a permission system for who can access this or that. It's going to be who can interact with this and that, right? So if you are not the blacksmith, our blacksmith should not have to worry about the leatherworking person just going and stealing stuff or, messing with their stuff. They can keep things where they need it. I would really like to see an implementation of something similar to the townie mod for Minecraft, where you can have a plot of land and then you can subdivide up plots of land within that plot of land. And then you can give permissions to those subplots to other members or ranks, right? So you can have a town hall where everyone's welcome. You can have a officer's lounge where only these ranks are allowed. You can have sub ranks that if you do not have a permission system, kind of like on Discord, you cannot gain access to it or interact with said thing or place. And I really like that. Sparta says, Star Citizen actually did a good job with the orgs in that the org leader can create their own rank names and such. Yes, I definitely agree with that. Star Citizen's another huge one for me too, because that game it's almost like comparable to PAX Day, right? PAX Day is a low fantasy giant MMO. Star Citizen is a not really high fantasy, but like sci-fi giant MMO. Both two very cool games in my opinion. Maven says, I'm definitely diplomatic as well as a creator, not so much war-minded unless I need to be. Well, that's good to know, Maven. So you can maybe lead our diplomatic force in making clan alliances and stuff. And these permission systems that they're talking about here are going to be they're going to be great for that. A notable bug we already addressed in our internal build was related to the system used to prevent building on roads. In some locations, this system was overridden by another one. It should no longer be possible to block access to areas of the road network where it's intended to have guaranteed access to it. So this is interesting to know that I didn't actually see that, I don't think. Oh no, I did see some archways across the road a little bit, so maybe that was not intended, but it's good to know that they're already fixing bugs that have to do with the build system. So some of the other things of note here, whoops, let me scroll up a little bit. Some of the other things of note that they're talking about here. Oh, let me catch up on this chat. Maven says, by war-minded, I mean I'm not a great physical soldier. Oh, I got you. So like not front lines, combat's not really your thing, but you do combat because like I was saying before, everyone's going to have to do combat, right? But you're saying like maybe PvP or open combat's not your jam. That's cool. I mean, hey, there's something for everyone, right? And that's why I want to see the PvP system and all of this stuff get fleshed out properly. They go on to say that they found and fixed the problem causing inventories to sometimes go out of sync. I didn't really. Oh, I did notice that. It happened a couple times, but I was able to just work around it. I forgot exactly what I did to get it to correct, but it's good to know that they found that issue and hopefully got it fixed. This was caused by a memory leak. I'd say I didn't notice any memory leaks really because I didn't like run out of RAM, but I have a pretty beefy system. So it may have been that there's just memory leaks that were causing some of these issues. It sometimes caused an object with the player's inventory state to remain on the server. The actual inventory contents of the player was still correct as the inventory state is on our backend. So it sounds like it was just a server issue. So it's good that they were able to get that corrected. Hey, Wasted's back. How's it going? You just got here. I'll need to rewatch the VOD tonight. Yeah, definitely make sure you check it out and let me know what you think. I know you just got here, but let me know what you think about this new podcast setup. It's a little bit interactive because we got the chat down there and we got me lighting up. And when I have guests, they'll light up too. Sorry, I'm reiterating it for people who have heard me say this a couple times now, but I need some feedback on this setup. Let me know what you all think about this. Sparta says, I did see clans completely block access to the PvP area. They completely walled off the road. You were so surprised because you didn't think that you could build on roads. Glad to hear it was a bug. Yeah. I saw some archways going over. I didn't see that extent, but thanks for sharing that. That's good to know that it actually was a thing, because they can tell us, oh yeah, we experienced this and this. It's good. It's actually good to know someone who actually experienced it firsthand. Makes it a little more personal and they can understand it a little bit better than just, oh yeah, this thing was happening off in the aether somewhere. Another hiccup they encountered was a permission system bug, which allowed some people to access any plot and chests while not being able to access their own. That's a huge issue. Massive. Throw in the towel. That's game breaking, right? If you can have somebody get a bug that allows them to access your permission system and steal all of your shit, that's really bad, right? So hopefully this was addressed, fixed, top to bottom, tested. I'll personally test it again if I can figure out how next time to make sure this gets corrected, because if they're going to be working on the permission system and making it very in depth, things like this need to be fixed, right? So I probably should just read a little bit further because they said this issue was easily fixed on the individual level with a log out and log in. But from a global perspective is a critical bug involving several systems. So maybe they haven't fixed it yet, but it's fixed on the player level by a log out because it probably refreshed them on the back end, right? We patched the issue during the alpha. Okay, so it was fixed. And they're now working on a more robust system for refactoring some of the involved subsystems. That's great to hear. Again, mainframe, if you're watching this, sign me up. I'll test it. I'll give you my honest opinion. I'm not bought and paid for. I don't have any sponsors yet. Maybe I'll get some in the future for certain things. But even then, I give my honest opinions. I like YouTube channels Like I watched the outdoor gear review where he reviews outdoor gear for camping and stuff. He doesn't bullshit with you. He'll give it to you straight. I like, is it worth a buy? He'll tell you straight if the game's good or bad, even if he got the key for free. And that's how I am. I will give you my authentic reaction and input on things. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. But Mainframe, if you watch this, let me in the next test. I'll test it out and I'll test it top to bottom. And I'll, as long as I can bring the info. I like how they did their alpha. I could stream it. V Rising, not so much. I wasn't able to, strict NDA, couldn't talk about it at all. I talked a little bit about it after the fact, some of the things that they changed and the good stuff and things like that. But while it's under NDA, can't talk about it. So I'm really glad that Mainframe decided for PAX Day to go with not restricting us to be able, so that we could talk about it. Sparta says, that happened to us too. We watched a dude walk into our village and he systematically searched each and every box in our village. The next day I saw the note. The devs fixed it. I was so impressed. Yeah, I'm glad that you got to witness that too. I mean, at least it happened, right? Let's put it this way. At least it happened during an alpha where it really has no impact on anything. It's good to know that people were, I'm not I'm not a big proponent of hoping people are trolling and stuff, but sometimes it's good when they do it during the alpha. If you find something out, like me bugging the bears and stuff, if I didn't do that during the alpha, then it would never get fixed outside of the alpha, right? So it's good to see that that stuff is actually getting fixed. They captured a considerable amount of performance profiling during the alpha, and they've already fixed many issues that caused server and client, they call them stuns. I'm assuming they mean like lag or stutters. I didn't really have any performance issues, but my system, I'm running a 6900 XT with a 5950X processor on an Asus Dark Hero motherboard, 64 gigs of, like, my system is very beefy on a 980 NVMe by Samsung. I didn't have really any performance issues at all, to be honest. As far as I can remember, there may have been some minor stuff, but I had max graphics, max everything, and it ran great and looked beautiful. I had some visual bugs with the grass and flowers in certain areas, but they seem to have resolved after the fact. They maybe patched it or something. But they're talking about, so the next time you play, the game should perform more smoothly for people who did have issues. So hey, that's always good, Like with Star Citizen, that game runs like dog shit most of the time. Then they'll come out with a patch, and this patch runs better and stuff. So I mean, it's a process, right? So let's give them the benefit of the doubt for people who did have issues. Try it out next time. Hopefully, it runs a little bit smoother for you. As mentioned in their Stories of the War Room post, we also found and fixed issues in our overall setup that led to downtime during the first 2 days. So for people who were tuned in at the beginning, we did have a little bit of trouble getting in. I had to delay a couple streams and pause a couple streams when the servers went down, and even end a couple streams when I couldn't get back in. Again, it's to be expected, right? It's only their second alpha. These things happen. I thought they handled it really well, and they came back online pretty quick, to be honest. I was impressed. From a technical perspective, the alpha was a great success, and we got all the information we needed to fix a multitude of issues. That's key right there. They fixed a multitude of issues, and that's what this is all about at the end of the day. It's about testing, giving our opinion, and fixing the issues. And it sounds like their Mainframe's doing a great job at doing both of those. Last but not least, keybind control rebinding is coming, or keyboard control rebinding is coming. We can't promise to have it by early access, as we still have some issues to overcome, but it is on their top of their priorities. That's great to see as well, because again, this is going to come back to you having authority over your character and over your input with that character. On that topic, we're also eager to learn more about, if you're eager to learn more about early access, it is coming for sure, and on time. That's key. They even put an exclamation point. It's coming on time. So they say, stay tuned and we'll tell you more before too long. Thank you, the Mainframe team. And they got this nice little picture here. So what do you guys think about all of these things that they talked about in these updates here? Either let me know in chat, let me know in comments, let me know on future streams, future podcasts. But I'm really excited to see what PAX Day holds going forward. It's Wonderful game so far. I've had a blast with it, and seeing the improvements. And I mean, this was only posted 6 days ago. That alpha was not that long ago, and they're already on top of this stuff, right? So we just need to make our voices heard. We need to make sure that we're going to hold them accountable, right? Because they're talking about the things that they want to bring to the game. We got to hold them accountable, and we got to make sure that they're actually going to be pushing these things and fixing these systems. The biggest ones being the authority over your character in combat and the crafting. I think, in all honesty, the biggest one is the crafting. Because combat's combat, right? It's going to feel how it's going to feel. Combat's very, very important for a lot of people. Some people it's not so important, but it's very important. But for one thing's for sure, crafting is going to be a mainstay and one of the most important things. Progression of it needs to feel right. Maven says, I like to see that they are identifying and realistic goals that they're working towards, actionable goals. That's good too. Yep, I agree. Sparta says, so excited. I can't wait. I look forward to seeing you all there. Yeah, Sparta, we're going to have to. What was the code again? Maven posted up above. You know what? I'm gonna do it right now. Let's take the time. I'm gonna scroll up here. It's like, there it is. Embarrassed square vegetable. I'm gonna copy this. For people who are not signed up yet, I think everyone is here, but I'm gonna post this here. I'm gonna do my best to remember to put it in the description of all future podcasts, including this one. But there it is. That's my code. We're gonna try doing a community thing. Make sure everybody's on the Discord. Get involved. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Leave a like. It really helps spread the word because we want to get more cool people involved on this, right? We want to get more like-minded people who want to join our clan, raise our numbers. So that way when we go into this, we have as much man and woman power as we can have. Maven says, I feel like this is a game I could see myself playing in the years to come. I agree. I can really get absorbed in good games like this. And you know what the big thing is too? We've already built community around this, right? A game's a game at the end of the day. Sure, it's entertainment. Sure, it passes the time and it's whatever. You know, it's like watching a movie. You go, you pay for a movie, you spend a couple hours, you get the enjoyment. I like games though because you spend your money on it. You get tons of replayability with a lot of games. But one of the biggest things for me is community. We have so many people who are going to come from all different walks of life who are all going to come together to enjoy each other's company, playing something together, engaging with each other, working together, teamwork to overcome different things and challenges in the game to accomplish goals. You know, maybe those goals are world domination. I'm not sure. We're going to find out though, that's for sure. I'm wondering how many plots we're going to get in the next alpha or early access. I kind of hope they do one more early access or one more alpha before early access. I think the more early alphas they do before early access, the better. But again, early access is kind of like a beta, so it's still a testing phase. A lot of stuff can still take place in it during it. But yeah, make sure you guys all get involved. Join the Discord if you're not already. Use Embarrassed Square Vegetable to sign up on playpaxday.com. That's where I'm on right now. You can see a whole list of their other posts and stuff they have here. This was posted 6 days ago by the mainframe team. I think that just about wraps it up, unless anyone else has any other topics they'd like to talk about. In a future podcast, maybe tomorrow, one of these days soon, we're going to talk about a wish list of things that we would like to see come into the game, go into a little more in depth on some of the nitty gritty stuff. So definitely in the next couple weeks for sure. I can't promise when it's going to happen. I'm going to try and refine this podcast setup here a little bit. But again, feedback goes a long way. So let me know what you guys think about this podcast setup. My subscriber goal thing is always off a little bit for some reason. I don't know if it's just delayed from when the public numbers show on YouTube. I actually have 149, so we're not far away from 150. I'd really like to get 150 and then push into 200. So if you guys can help share the video, like it, and all of that to help me grow this channel, I'd be, greatly, greatly appreciate that. Sparta says, bravo, exactly. Community and building relationships is going to be huge. I will look for you and your clan. Again, if you want to be a part of the clan, Sparta, just hit us up and take part of it from the beginning. You know, the people who are there at the beginning are going to have priority in getting promotions and stuff like that. And I'm thinking a lot of the other sleuths, a lot of the other people who are already in the community on Discord, some of my longtime friends and stuff, people who co-host things with me, some of my guests and things like that. They're probably going to be getting in on this as well once this comes out and they're able to gain access. I know TK Seaton, aka the Pumpkin King, he has signed up using Embarrassed Square Vegetable now. He was not able to get in. He signed up late for Alpha 2, the Wilderness Alpha. So he's going to be trying to get in if there is another alpha or into the beta. I wonder if it's going to be a paid early access. We haven't talked about monetization. I'll keep that for the next podcast, but monetization is going to be a very contentious topic. It's going to be very interesting to see how they're going to monetize this. Could make or break it. All right, guys and girls, that's going to do it for me. I got to go get some lunch. Well, I guess it's almost dinner at this point, but I got to get some food in me. Haven't eaten much today. We're going to grab some food, take a break, and interact with me on Discord. I love talking with everybody. If you guys have things that you want to talk about, you have ideas for the next podcast, you have topics, jump in on Discord. I'm serious. Jump in on Discord. I'll interact with you guys on there. We can talk about stuff. We can even hop in voice chat and have dialogue back and forth for what you'd like to see in future podcasts and things like that. So make sure you join the Discord. It's very important. We're building community here, just like Sparta said. So that's going to do it for me. I'm going to sign off here. Until we meet again, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.